Apocalyptic wasteland world, land abandonment, and species variation. Survival starts with collecting waste. Ling. What combination is this? Disabled dad, weak sister, and also, weak him. Also bring a radiation test girl. Chatty buddy, apply to join. Please accept it all. Here, deadly radiation is everywhere. Here, everything is for food and to live. Here, the strong are supreme, and there are no rules left. See how they survive in the end of the world. Chapter 1. Wake up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The summer breeze blew the leaves and then crawled into the house through the window. Ling suddenly sat up from the bed, panting heavily. Waves of intense pain came from deep in her brain, and she couldn't help but cover her forehead. Hiss, it hurts so much. Where is this? Ling looked around, old and unfamiliar, with tattered clothes on her body. She seems to remember that she accidentally entered the explosion zone while carrying out the mission. The powerful explosives were enough to shatter her bones. Did she survive by chance? The severe headache made Ling cover her head. Her mind suddenly flooded with countless unfamiliar scenes, each one clear and unfamiliar, quickly screening in her mind like a movie. For a long time, when her mind calmed down, she stared at the bloodstains on her hands and had to accept a fact. She has traveled through time. Traversing into the apocalyptic wasteland world. The person in my memory, also known as Ling, struggled at the bottom of the residential area and made a living by collecting waste. At the end of her memory, she rolled down a hillside and hit her forehead against a stone, unconscious. According to the original owner's memory, human civilization ceased to exist after a devastating nuclear war. Nuclear war waste is stored in every corner of the earth, land is polluted, food is scarce, and civilians have to rely on scavenging for a living. The sunlight here contains deadly radiation, which causes species to mutate, plants to grow wildly, animals to grow bigger and stronger, and even attacks humans. Human beings have lost their dominant position and are struggling to survive in various residential areas. There is no law here, the strong are respected, only various rules formulated by rulers. Sister. A soft voice suddenly reached Ling's ears. Ling looked up and found a girl of 5 or 6 years old standing at the door with a wooden basin. Subconsciously, Ling remembered in her mind that this was her sister. Xian, who was 7 years old but only 5 or 6 years old. Her hair is withered and yellow, gathered behind her head, and she stands on end, suffering from severe malnutrition. Xian pounced on Ling and held her tightly, unwilling to let go. Sister, you finally woke up. I thought. Ling helped her down and said, I'm going to lose my breath. Looking at Xian's tearful eyes, he comforted and said, I'm fine, don't worry. Little rabbit, quickly untie it for me. A woman's sharp curse came from outside the courtyard. Ling looked at Xian in confusion and said, what happened? Who is outside? Xian said with a frightened expression, it's Sister Hu Shan. She said you owe her and insist on taking our things. I opened the trap and she's now trapped. In my memory, Hu Shan was familiar and her scavenger partner. Traps, also familiar, were set by their father. Your sister doesn't have me, what are you looking for to eat? What she owes me should be repaid. Little bastard, if you don't let go of me, don't blame me for being impolite. Without me, your family would have starved to death long ago. Lingfu's forehead. What kind of savage buddy is this? Is that right? Ling is not so easy to bully. She walked out of the room expressionless and unhappily, and the vegetable leaves found by the original owner were not given to her. Tell me what I owe you. Do you think I'm dead and come here to deceive the child? The air in the yard seems to condense. Hu Shan, who was cursing, was suddenly stunned. It took a long time for a sound to come. Ling, are you awake? You didn't fall to death." Hu Shan opened her eyes wide, still in shock and unable to recall. She saw Mu Ling rolling down the mountain slope with her own eyes, blood flowing all over the ground, and she still brought the person back. She couldn't find it on her, so she used the excuse of seeing her off and searched her house, but somehow she was strangled by the little bastard with a rope and couldn't break free. Mu Ling moved her wrist without saying a word, her eyes fixed on Hu Shan, as sharp as a knife. Inexplicably, Hu Shan looked at Mu Ling's imposing demeanor and felt flustered. "What do you want to do, or did I send you back?" "So what? Haha. It's really a crazy world. She dares to openly go to her home to grab things as soon as she dies." Mu Ling walked up to Hu Shan, untied the rope, and said without a doubt, "Put things down. You go, otherwise don't blame me for being polite." Hu Shan rubbed her sore arm and felt unwilling. Since she had already torn her face, why should she return what she had obtained? Even if she comes back to life, what strength can she still have? Besides, it was she who brought her back, and it's only natural for her to want this thing. Then don't do it, don't rest. I saw her staring at Mu Ling, reaching out to touch a wooden stick, and fiercely hitting Mu Ling. Mu Ling turned to her side, and a wooden stick swept past her. A gust of wind drove her clothes. Before Hu Shan could react, Mu Ling grabbed her wrist and twisted it hard. When she exerted force on her hand, her veins burst and she became particularly thin. Hu Shan felt immense pain in her wrist, and the stick was instantly taken off. She gritted her teeth in pain, her face flushed, and turned around to tear and beat Mu Ling. Unexpectedly, Mu Ling was one step faster than her and hit her knee bone with a stick. This strike seemed powerless, but the area was tricky. Hu Shan roared and knelt on the ground, her knee bone as if shattered. She sat up and cursed loudly, "Mu Ling, you are ungrateful. It was I who saved you." Before she could finish scolding, the stick fell straight down and completely knocked her down. Mu Shan clapped his hands excitedly when he saw his sister subduing him. "Sister is amazing, sister is amazing." Hu Shan lay on the ground, her face choked with dust, but she dared not move again. She didn't understand why Mu Ling, who was originally a weak chicken, suddenly became so powerful. Based on her understanding, Mu Ling doesn't have such agile skills. Mu Ling looked at her coldly, with a chill in her eyes and said, "Did you kill and search yourself, or did you voluntarily return the item?" At this moment, Hu Shan on the ground was completely disoriented. She took out all the things in her arms and trembled, saying, "It's all here. Give it back to you. If you let me go, I won't dare again. Get lost." Hu Shan ran out with a limp as if facing amnesty. Mu Ling glanced at what she had pulled out. A small piece of blue glass. A piece of amber. Half-length fluorescent rod. There is also a square piece that I don't know what it is. Everyone here harbors a whimsical heart. These are the energy crystals accumulated by the original owner. Mu Ling looked at these little things and felt a faint pain in her head. She frowned and found a stool to sit down on. Just now, she had been propping herself up, and only she knew how weak this body was. Recalling the force coming from behind as she rolled down the mountain slope, she shook her head and sighed, Mu Ling, you are really foolish. It's not worth sacrificing my life for these tattered things. Sister, you're bleeding again on your head, I'll wipe it off for you." Sister's fainting made Mu Xian feel a huge fear in her heart. As soon as she saw bleeding on her head, tears began to swirl in her eyes. Mu Ling looked at her with a surge of warmth in her heart. She patted Mu Xian's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, I've already woken up, there must be no problem." Mu Xian gritted his teeth to prevent himself from crying and whispered, "Sister, is it still painful?" She is an orphan with no relatives. When she grew up, she was selected by a special organization and became a mercenary. The war was ruthless, and she acted like an emotionless machine, carrying out tasks one by one. She should have died. Don't worry, sister is not afraid of pain. Mu Ling hugged her and gently patted her back, comforting her. She was frightened. Take it as it comes, and now let her be reborn here. With her family, she will definitely take good care of her loved ones. After treating the wound, Mu Xian insisted that she rest. Mu Ling lay bored on the bed in the kitchen, carefully examining her surroundings. In front of her was a large wooden table with wooden walls. A few simple wooden sticks support a shelf, piled with miscellaneous items. Further away, there is a large water tank and a large stove. On the other side of the large water tank are 2 doors, which are 2 inner rooms. The stove is randomly stacked with stones of different sizes. Steam was swirling above the stove, and from her, one could just see what was cooking in the shiny black pot. Mu Xian sat on a small stool, holding her cheeks and occasionally looking towards her. Beside her was a neatly stacked stack of firewood. Chapter 2. Essential for Scrapping Up Wasteland. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The misty water vapor dispersed above the table. Mu Ling and Mu Xian were sitting at the table, each of them had a bowl of congee. Congee was made of corn grits, which was mixed with dark green shredded vegetable leaves. Mu Ling picked up the bowl and slowly took a sip. Cough, cough. The taste of congee is astringent, and the coarse corn grits are pulling at the throat, which makes it difficult for Mu Ling to swallow. What thing? Ding, activate detection function. Mutated mustard, exposed to level 5 radiation, containing carcinogens. Mutant corn flour, exposed to level V radiation, containing carcinogens. Detection function. Is the radiation so severe? Mu Xian put down the dishes and nervously went to help Mu Ling, saying, Sister, are you okay? Nothing, just choked. After confirming that she was okay, Mu Xian began to eat congee again. Cannot eat. These have mutated and have severe radiation. Mu Xian was puzzled and said, Sister, this is blue. The blue one. Mu Ling searched for memories in her brain and obtained the answer. It is indeed blue, or she tested it with Hu Shan's testing needle. It can indeed be eaten. She has been eating this body for 18 years. Radiation is everywhere now, and there is no safe food available. In slums, every household can regularly receive detection needles. Insert the probe into the food, and the display area of the probe will display colors based on the severity of radiation exposure to the food. Use colors to distinguish edible food. White represents that the tested food is healthy and free of radiation. Next are yellow, green, blue, purple, and black. White and yellow indicate food safety and only contain a small amount of radiation. Green and blue indicate that it is edible and contains higher levels of radiation. Purple and black represent inedibility. Containing a huge amount of radiation, consuming it can harm health, and in severe cases, it can be as deadly as poison. Blue is the best belly food that these poor people can find. Respect the strong in this world. The poor can only live in dilapidated wooden houses like ants and eat food containing radiation. The area where Mu Ling lives belongs to the number 22 slum on the outskirts of Yancheng. The Yen city, separated from the slums by a wall, has people who live in every way, including clothing, food, housing, and transportation. The real life there is. That is the place where the upper people and supernatural beings reside. As the cutting-edge forces of this world, they enjoy various privileges. Shanmin takes possession of the remaining resources on Earth and formulates various rules. As a weak existence, civilians can only accept rules. Nestled around the city, yearning for a little bit of charity from the people. There is a distinction between those with innate awakening abilities and those with acquired awakening abilities, and both require a large amount of energy crystals. For civilians, it is even more unattainable. There are 2 opportunities for ordinary people to stand out and achieve class crossing. Firstly, strengthen one's own genes and inject fortifiers. However, the risk is too high, and in most cases, one will face failure. If they fail, they will be eliminated directly. Even if they survive by chance, illness will accompany them for a lifetime. Only successful individuals can enter urban hunting teams, obtain food and status. Secondly, pick up an energy crystal. Energy crystals are a magical existence in this world, appearing in high-intensity radiation areas. Ling has only heard of them but has never seen them before. For the poor, even if they encounter them, they have no fate to pick them up. Thinking back, what was the sound of testing just now? Ling has no relevant memories. She picked up her chopsticks to test the test just now, and sure enough, the sound rang in her mind. Mutated bamboo, exposed to radiation level 5. Looking at Xin eating, there was nothing unusual. She understood that only she could hear this voice. I grabbed another handful from the cloth bag containing corn grits. Mutated corn flour is exposed to radiation at level 5. Ling vaguely felt that this was the golden finger that heaven had opened for her. Or is it a special ability that the original owner already has, but never knows? In the Wasteland era, in order to survive, organisms will undergo mutations and adapt to the environment. It's not surprising that humans have undergone some mutations. Anyway, isn't this just a must-have for scavengers? She doesn't have to mix with other people's detection needles anymore. In memory, this family was supported by their father. He just went to participate in hunting activities now. Hunting is a regular activity held by hunting teams, leading civilians to gather food or hunt in distant primitive forests. A large amount of primitive forests have never been mined, and there is always a harvest. However, there are many dangers, and without the protection of hunting teams, civilians absolutely dare not take risks. Ling looked at the clean bowl that his sister licked, and gave her most of the congee she left. Eat more, eat enough, and then have the strength to beat the villain. The villain bullies home, don't be afraid, just beat. That's right, the friend of the original owner has already been assigned to the ranks of villains by her. The weak eat the strong, the fittest survive. No matter where you are, your own strength is an unchanging truth. The next morning, Ling wrapped her whole body tightly and walked out with a basket on her back. According to the original owner's memory, the radiation of sunlight is comparable to that of Wasteland, and prolonged exposure can be fatal. The morning sunshine is still better, and it doesn't hurt to shine on people. Ling walked and looked at it. The tall tree towered into the clouds, but its trunk emitted a faint fluorescence. Based on experience, this type of radiation is the most severe. The roadside is overgrown with weeds and tangled with vines, with huge wildflowers occasionally sticking their heads out and mixing in. When she went out, she took a firewood knife. The jungle was very dangerous and she needed weapons. Having the ability to detect makes her confident in finding food. Quickly, she found a horse-soaked vegetable and held it in her hand. The test showed that it had been irradiated to level 6, which corresponds to purple and cannot be eaten. Sure enough, in this post-apocalyptic wasteland world, food is not something that can be easily obtained. A group of poor people passed by in groups of 3 or 2, without stopping at all. This place is very close to the residential area, and the food that can be eaten should have been lit up long ago. In the pursuit of wealth insurance, she wants to find a place with fewer people. Their father hasn't returned for 5 days and there isn't much food left. Ling found a secluded path and followed it towards the depths of the jungle. The weeds are getting higher and higher on the road, and there is no way left. Digging deeper, the surroundings were quiet and silent, with occasional strange cries coming from the trees. That's it. Mewling cat crawled through the weeds and found a huge mutated dandelion plant. She held it in her hand and started the test. Mutated dandelion, exposed to radiation level 5. You can eat it. This area is lush with vegetation, and she continues to lower her head and pull. Purple flowers. Mu Ling looked at the clusters of green plants over a meter high in front of her. On the straight stem, there are many lateral branches and clusters of purple flowers swaying at the top of the branches. Mu Ling pinched off a tender stem, which had round leaves. Mutated alfalfa, exposed to radiation level 6. Level 6 corresponds to purple and cannot be eaten. There is still a large area of alfalfa in front of me, which is perennial and has tender stems and leaves that can be eaten. She touched each one and tested it. After searching around, many were exposed to level 5 radiation, and 11 were exposed to level 4 radiation. Surprisingly, 2 were exposed to level 3 radiation, corresponding to yellow. It's safe food. Based on different radiation values, she classified the tender buds of these alfalfa plants and harvested them all. Looking at the full baskets, Mu Ling's face was filled with joy. It's not in vain for her to walk so far. There are few people here, so we must stay and collect wool. The gentle breeze stirred the leaves and stirred the tranquility of the forest. A pair of eyes approached slowly with vigilance. Immediately after, a white shadow pounced. Dang, dang. Mu Ling dodged sideways, and the white shadow stopped a few meters away. It seems that is it a sheep. Just as I was thinking of harvesting wool, a fat sheep came to my door. Just this sheep has a shoulder height of over 1 meter, almost catching up with her height. At this moment, the mutated sheep stood in the distance, digging the ground with their front hooves and staring at her in an attacking posture. She tightened her hand holding the firewood knife. The white shadow moved and rushed towards her in a flash. Mu Ling dodged on the side and struck the sheep's horn with a wooden knife. The numb pain came from the arm, and the firewood knife broke in two. Fortunately, she dodged quickly, and as she watched the mutated sheep standing a few steps away, she felt lingering palpitations. If it were to be topped by its horns, it would still have multiple blood holes if it didn't die. Human beings are too weak here. It's hard to find such a little wild vegetable. Even sheep dare to come and grab it. Chapter 3. Hunting and Killing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mu Ling picked up the broken firewood knife and cautiously retreated slowly. It's just okay, good women don't fight sheep. There is a huge disparity in strength, and she doesn't want to be kicked to death by a sheep weighing hundreds of pounds. She just let go of the meat that was delivered to her mouth. How unwilling she is. On the way back, she specifically went to find some Rami. Continuing back, an arched mound of soil caught her attention. The soil was fresh. Was it a field mouse? There are corn grits at home and alfalfa leaves in the basket. Especially when she saw the sheep just now, she wanted to eat meat now. Even a field mouse can do it, she doesn't mind. Mu Ling used a wooden knife to dig the soil, but there was nothing left until the end. She squatted down and touched the ground with her hands. Detection. Waste soil, exposed to level 7 radiation. Okay. It is indeed a delusion. Unable to detect the location of field mice. Meat-eating plan, die. It's too difficult. Mu Ling rubbed her stomach, she's very hungry now. She had eaten nothing but half a bowl of congee last night. Missing canned meat. No, compressed cookies are also okay. Grab out the corn cakes and kettle that were taken out in the morning. Take a bite of the cake and scream. Take a sip of water, it smells strange. Can't even drink pure water in the future. Thinking of this, Mu Ling suddenly saw a small space in front of her, only 1 meter square, with a hazy edge and an invisible barrier blocking her from exploring towards the mist. A stream of spring water flowed in and out of the hazy space, and she reached out to hold it in the air. The spring water really flowed into her palm. She opened her mouth again to drink, sweet and pure, washing away her previous fatigue. What's going on here? Thinking of the detection function, Mu Ling's special ability was activated precisely because of her arrival. Perhaps this is a superpower. The spring water was inexhaustible, and after drinking enough, the green plants beside her attracted her again. On the mossy rocks, there were several deep green plants with round stems and thick leaves. She reached out to touch, Dendrobium officinale var. Officinale, a traditional Chinese medicine, has been irradiated to level 5. Level 5 is blue, available. There are collection and sales centers in the slums. Items can be used for transactions. Just give it a try. The sun gradually rose, and the dazzling sunlight shone through the sparse leaves, scorching like countless tiny needles piercing into the skin. The noon sunlight radiation is enough to kill people, they must avoid it. Mu Ling thought of the space she had just entered, but her body and this space were like two overlapping worlds, unable to enter at all. I had to find a dense thicket and burrow in. The bushes looked airtight, but I didn't expect there to be a large blue stone inside. Leaning against the big blue stone, it's cool and comfortable. Comfortable enough to make her want to sleep. Can she sleep while just picking up waste in the wilderness? Cannot sleep. When she had a sudden idea and reached back to check the big blue stone, her hand touched something slippery. Hey, what is it? Still wriggling slightly. Almost at the same time, the thing moved with a whoosh, and Mu Ling jumped out of the bushes with a whoosh. It's a mutated python. The big green python is thicker than its arms, and its protruding body is over 1 meter long. A circle of pale snake skin hangs below it 7 inches, making it a python shedding its skin. At this moment, it stands up, spits out long messages, and emits a hiss warning sound. The skin exposed to the sun reminded her to avoid it as soon as possible. However, the threat from the python made her dare not act recklessly. Slowly retreat to the foot of a big tree. The scorching radiation penetrated through the branches, occasionally piercing her body. Fortunately, the sun had moved westward and under a thick tree trunk, completely enveloping her in shadows. The big green python watched as she gradually drifted away, without attacking, and slowly coiled back. Very good, the well water does not invade the river. Just, the backpack is still in the bushes. As the sun fell on the western mountain, Mu Ling picked up a wooden stick and slowly walked towards the bushes. Throughout the entire noon, Mu Ling was choosing between starving to death and taking risks, and in the end, she chose to take risks. She walked and knocked, vigilant and watching every movement. 3 meters, 2 meters, 1 meter. The distance from the backpack is getting closer and closer. Finally, I picked up the basket and found that there were not a few alfalfa plants inside. There is also no trace of the python. She was about to return when suddenly she let out a whoosh. The big green python appeared, with its agile body wrapped around Mu Ling's legs. Mu Ling screamed inwardly that it was not good. The python was good at strangling. She had already been entangled and couldn't break free. She suddenly collapsed, rolled over, and each python rolled out of the bushes. With both hands, she pulled out a broken firewood knife and stabbed it with force. The python was attacked and wrapped even tighter, tightly gripping her abdomen. She could hardly breathe, and in a daze, the python bit her left arm. The huge pain almost caused her to throw away the firewood knife. When her left arm was bitten, she thrust the knife deeper. The firewood knife on the right hand was pulled out, fiercely piercing the python's 7 inches. Once, twice the firewood knife grinded blood out of her tiger's mouth. Blood, mixed with the blood of a python, sprayed onto the ground, on her body in a life and death struggle. Mu Ling won, only covered in blood. Her entangled body was relaxed, and she was panting heavily. The body of the python wriggled on the ground in vain. Because its head has already been cut off. Having rested enough, she used spring water to clean up the wounds and bloodstains on her body. She is now covered in injuries all over. When the body of the python stopped moving, she pulled a handful of vines, tied the python's head and body, dragged it back. In the evening, the poor walked back in groups of 3 or 5. When they saw her dragging a python, they were all surprised, followed by envy and jealousy. Some people were eager to move, showing greedy eyes, but when they saw the evil energy emanating from Mu Ling's body, it made them feel intimidated. Mu Ling arrived at the trading center, and as soon as she entered the door, there was a huge electronic screen that displayed the points for daily exchange of items. Inside are machines that resemble vending machines. There is a row of counters on the right side of the hall, and behind the counters is the administrator of the trading center. There is no currency here, everything is measured by points. Everyone can apply for a personal point card. Sell your own items and exchange them for points. Redeem points for required items. Her arrival has already caught the attention of the administrators. Before Mu Ling could speak, an administrator approached her. The administrator glanced at the green python on the ground and asked, "Do you want to redeem points?" Mu Ling nodded. The administrator took the python and said, "Follow me." Entering the reception room, the administrator placed the python on a huge metal tray. Screen lights up. Green python, non-toxic, non-ulcerative, weighing 70 kilograms, valued at 3,500 points. The administrator twisted a camera probe towards Mu Ling and said, "Are you sure?" "I don't have a points card, this is my first time redeeming." The administrator nodded and said, "A large part of the common people, who are short of food and clothing, have no savings in their lifetime. Where can they exchange things?" After a crackling sound on the keyboard, he recorded Mu Ling's fingerprints and facial information. Next, he handed a black card to Mu Ling and said, "Your information has been recorded. This is your points card, and I can directly use it for facial recognition at the exchange machine. If my family uses it, they need to hold the card. The exchange machine in the lobby can exchange daily necessities and food. Special items can be inquired at the counter, and you can go and exchange them. Wait, I have more." Mu Ling took out dandelion, Dendrobium officinale, and those alfalfa with radiation levels of level 5. These radiation levels are higher. Since there is enough food, she doesn't want to eat it, but she can't waste it either. The administrator placed them one by one on the tray. Dandelion, blue, weighing 200 grams, worth 2 points. Dendrobium officinale, blue, weighing 600 grams, worth 12 points. Alfalfa tender leaves, blue, weighing 3 kilograms, worth 30 points. In the Wasteland era, ordinary medicinal herbs were not as valuable as wild vegetables, and the common people couldn't eat enough. There was no spare money to exchange for medicine. It's all a small illness to bear, a big illness to bear on the mountain. Chapter 4. Picking Yangmei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Farewell to the administrator. Mu Ling came to the food exchange machine first. She now has 3,544 points. It should be able to handle it for a while. The first thing needed is staple food, preferably with lower radiation levels. 20 kilograms of green wheat flour per bag, 400 points. 2L vegetable oil, 200 points. A bag of salt, 20 points. Seasoning Mu Ling only sees pepper powder, 1 bottle, 50 points. Think of the weak child in homesickness again. Mu Ling decisively exchanged a piece of wild boar meat for 4 kilograms and 1,000 points. The firewood knife is broken, she needs a weapon. Mu Ling chose a bayonet worth 1,200 points. The bayonet is similar to her previous military bayonets, with a black handle and clear texture. The blade is 30 centimeters long and emits a cold glow. She happily tucked it away and pinned it around her waist. When she arrived at the daily necessities exchange machine, Mu Ling was stunned and said, "A 500 milliliters bottle of shampoo requires 2,000 points." She looked down at her long curled hair. "I can't afford it anymore. But hygiene issues still need to be solved." Mu Ling gritted her teeth and exchanged 300 points for a piece of soap. If she had to go home, she could cut her long hair short. Looking at the few remaining points, Mu Ling sighed and said that he couldn't become fat by taking one bite, so he needed to work hard. I originally thought I could change clothes to wear, but it seems that she will have to wear these tattered clothes for a while. At dusk, Mu Ling returned home. Sister, you're back. I made pancakes today, you eat them quickly. I've already eaten them. Mu Shen carefully held a bowl up to Mu Ling. After speaking, I will go out to fetch water. Mu Ling saw her pick up the bucket and quickly said, I'll go later. Picking up the pancake, I didn't mind my throat anymore and swallowed it in a few bites. Sure enough, no one can be picky when hungry. If one meal is not enough, then 2 meals are enough. A thick pancake won't make you hungry. Mu Ling presented today's harvest. Mu Xian's eyes lit up and he said, Sister, have you found so many dishes? Don't worry, there's more. Flour. Do you still have meat? Sister, Mu Zhen realized his voice was too loud and asked in a low voice, Sister is so amazing. There are so many delicious things to pick up. Mu Xian, go hide these foods. I'll go fetch water and cook. Looking at the food in front of him, Mu Xian swallowed and said, But I've already eaten it. Hunger makes her at a young age overly cherish food. Eating doesn't count, you have to be full. Mu Ling took out her bayonet and sliced all the pork into pieces. When Mu Xian went to the inner room to hide things, he filled the large water tank with spring water. Add firewood and boil water, divide the water into 2 when it boils. Then add oil to the wok. Stir-fry pork and sprinkle with salt. Scoop out a large portion and store it, then add a portion of boiling water to the rest. Mix some dough lumps and put them into a pot, then add the blanched alfalfa leaves. The woodshed was suddenly filled with a fragrant aroma. After a meal, Mu Xian was extremely satisfied with it. He had never tasted such delicious food before, it was sweet and delicious. After dinner, Mu Ling took out the ramie stem. Ramie. Sister, do you want to weave fabric? Mu Ling smiled and said, If it weren't for yesterday when you opened the trap, could you cure the bad guys? I also want to twist a hemp rope and set a trap in the forest. Maybe I can catch something. Mu Ling picked up a piece of ramie, removed its leaves, and then peeled off its stem skin. Several stem skins were twisted into a thin rope, and then several thin ropes were combined into a thick hemp rope. Mu Ling looked at the hemp rope she had rubbed and said, It's still thin. And it's still wet. There are many red vines in the forest, and they can be cut down and soaked in water to dry. They can also be used as ropes. I'll cut back some tomorrow, and you can help me sun-dry them at home. Okay. The next day, just after dawn, Mu Ling went out with 2 mantu. Mantu were made while she taught Mu Xian, and people needed to manage them at home. She is not at home during the day, so she can only let her sister share the burden. Her younger sister is intelligent and sensible, and willing to learn quickly. On the road, a large number of poor people hurriedly headed east. I heard that the greenhouse area is open today. Let's hurry up and don't miss the queue. Finally opened up, stewing vegetables and leaves every day. I haven't had a serious meal for a long time. Perhaps I can still find staple foods like potatoes and corn this time. After listening, Mu Ling understood that during specific seasons each year, the shantytowns outside the residential areas would be open for a few days, allowing the poor to go in and pick up leeks. The roof of the greenhouse area is protected by special materials, and the proportion of crops grown can be eaten is higher than outside. However, special materials are extremely scarce, and the food in these greenhouse areas is given priority to the city. However, there was also a shortage of manpower. After harvesting the crops, the managers hired poor people to work, responsible for 2 meals a day for the poor. The food found by the poor while doing agricultural work also belongs to them. Before, she would also rush to go, but now. Hee hee. This abacus is really loud. The key poor are still flocking to it. Mu Ling doesn't want to be a free laborer. She found yesterday's path and burrowed deep into the jungle. The sunlight filtered through the leaves and poured into the forest, even though it didn't hurt yet. She tried to avoid these mottled bright lights as much as possible. Walking to yesterday's bushes, she boldly crawled back in. Sure enough, on the back of the big blue stone, a pale snake skin plate was there, and Mu Ling put the snake skin into the basket. She walked towards yesterday's alfalfa bushes again, chopping down some branches and sharpening both ends as she walked. When she arrived, she found that the alfalfa marked yesterday was bare, with only the main stem left. And the alfalfa with high radiation values on the side didn't move at all. That animal can actually distinguish the radiation value of plants and choose good ones to eat. There are no tender sprouts left to pick for alfalfa. Take out the hemp rope and branches that were twisted last night, set up a trap, and Mu Ling left. Continue walking deeper. There is unexpected danger in the depths, which means there is an opportunity to find food. To survive on the wasteland, one must take risks. What is that? Mu Ling looked at the dark red fruits that had fallen to the ground ahead. Most of the fruits are rotten. Pick out a slightly fresh one with a dark red appearance, densely packed in sacks, and looks like a fist. Mutated Yangmei. Exposed to radiation level 6, she had never eaten Yangmei in her past life, but she didn't drink much Yangmei soup. Sour and sweet, drinking a cup in the scorching summer makes you feel refreshed and refreshed. Mu Ling looked at the huge waxberry tree in front of her, with a diameter of at least 1 meter. The trunk of the tree has become flooded with light, and the radiation value has reached its peak. Level 7. Just. Mu Ling suddenly thought of a question: a tree at level 7 can produce fruit at level 6. Can it still produce fruit at level 5? Thinking of this, she was extremely excited and had to go find it. The big tree has lush branches and leaves, and Mu Ling stands on the main pole of the tree. Looking up, there is a branch not far away that is black, like a bird's nest surrounded by withered branches. Mu Ling climbed up high step by step. It's really a bird's nest. There are 6 bird eggs with gray patterns, each the size of a ping-pong ball. There are no rules for protecting forests and birds in this world. Mu Ling put all the bird eggs in her pocket. Next, looking for guazi, she found a branch with a wrist thick and tested it. It was exposed to radiation level 6. Unable to reach the fruit, she forcefully broke the branch. With a loud bang, branches carrying fruits fell down one by one. Startled, all the birds and sparrows in the forest flew away in the distance. She came down from the tree and searched one by one. Sure enough, you can feel a few level 5 waxberries that have been irradiated at the top of the branches, but these fruits are bright red in color and not yet ripe. Surprisingly, there are still a few 4th level fruits. Finally, there is already half a basket of Yangmei. As the sun grew higher and hotter, Mu Ling returned to the alfalfa bushes. Beside the alfalfa bushes, there are several locust trees that grow lush on a pile of stones. She stepped forward to examine 2 intertwined locust trees, with their branches and leaves stacked together, and the outcome was evenly matched. One of the tree trunks is hollow, forming a tree hole, and the space inside is just enough for her to avoid high radiation. Carefully inspected the interior of the tree hole. Very clean, without any traces of snakes, insects, mice, or ants. After hiding inside, she couldn't help but sigh. She was quite lucky. In the future, she will take this place as the center and the distance to the Yangmei tree as the radius to find food. She happened to hide here at noon. Just, next time you need to prepare some insect repellent medication, just in case. The noon time was extremely long. After eating mantu, she bored to play with the weeds in the cave. Chapter 5. It's really rude. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sun slanted westward, and the sunlight no longer tingled on her body. Mu Ling returned along the way. When encountering the red vine, Mu Ling used a bayonet to cut it off and bring it back. Is this red vine and another vine plant intertwined, and Mu Ling reached out to touch it. Sweet potatoes, exposed to radiation level 7. There is a large area of sparse and tender sweet potato leaves here, and it is not yet the season for sweet potatoes to grow. She released spring water to water it and secretly noted its location, so that she can come back later to see if there is anything edible. The wind blew the leaves, and a rustling sound sounded above my head. 2 thugs gathered around and blocked Mu Ling's way, saying, "I heard you beat a python. What's your concern?" One of the thugs said, "If you want to avoid a stick, just hand over your things obediently." Then he reached out and grabbed Mu Ling's backpack. Unexpectedly, before her hand touched the basket, she reacted extremely quickly and raised her arm to block it. The thug didn't react and stumbled forward. The other thug saw the situation and immediately hit her with a wooden stick. Mu Ling tilted his elbow and the wooden stick fell askew, hitting his accomplice who had just grabbed the basket. My accomplice fell and sat on the ground, howling incessantly. Mu Ling supported the basket and said, "It's really impolite to bump into something recklessly." The thug glanced at the forest in the distance, and Mu Ling followed suit. A familiar figure panicked and hid behind a tree. There is still a short distance from the residential area here, and most of the poor have gone to the shantytown. There was no one on the road, obviously these 2 thugs were coming towards her. That's it. Mu Lingwei squinted her eyes and walked slowly towards the thug step by step. The thug instinctively retreated, waving a stick back and forth. Mu Ling was not anxious or impatient. When the stick swept across her, she suddenly grabbed one end of the stick with force, twisted it with air, and snatched it off. The thug felt the stick in his hand slip, and when he looked up again, Mu Ling held the stick close to his eyes. There was a sharp pain in his abdomen, and he instantly knelt to the ground. Deep pupils, now black and bottomless. She clenched her hands tightly and her joints were very prominent, so she was not polite when hitting the stick. The thug on the ground wailed, "Stop fighting, stop fighting." Another accomplice also shouted loudly, You let him go." "It depends on my mood," Mu Ling said as she paused and her eyes swept. After speaking, she tilted her head and moved her neck, her bones making a slight noise. "Do I still need to split my things in half?" No. The thug hurriedly waved his hand. "What should you do if you are so rude?" The thug covered his stomach with resentment, but this person seemed weak but so powerful. Kicked the iron plate, he admitted defeat. He closed his eyes and blurted out, "I'm sorry. I can't hear clearly." "Yes, no, sorry." Mu Ling raised the corner of her mouth to retrieve the stick, and when she looked up, she saw Hu Shan standing dumbfounded in the distance. She was originally meant to watch the show, but after waking up from that day, Mu Ling, regardless of their relationship, beat her hard, which was already hard for her to swallow. Mu Ling doesn't have a testing needle. In the past, she used to pick up waste together, and the 2 of them used her testing needle together. They would also share a portion of the wild vegetables they found with her. This is an unwritten rule in residential areas. Today in the shed area, a familiar person joked that she had meat to eat, only to find out that Mu Ling had actually hunted a python yesterday. She was going crazy with anger. Why did that slut have such luck? She deliberately revealed it to the thugs nearby, but surprisingly, she couldn't handle this slut either. This place is still the old Mu Ling. Hu Shan's gaze collided with hers, causing her body to tremble and she quickly turned around and left. The mountains and forests are not lacking in birds and beasts, and ordinary civilians dare not have these ideas. Every year, the outskirts of residential areas are cleared by hunting teams to prevent mutated beasts from attacking humans. Even so, incidents of being attacked by fierce beasts still happen frequently. Mu Ling sneered at Hu Shan's tricks, having the ability to eat meat, but not being able to eat wild vegetables honestly. The light in the forest dimmed, and special buses rushed over one by one. The hunting team is back. People heard cries and rushed towards the square in the slums. There were over 100 poor people who followed the hunting team into the primitive forest and took 4 buses. At this moment, the families of these people are all crowded in the square searching for their loved ones. "Why can't you see my house?" someone asked loudly. "Why aren't these 2 cars still open?" One of the car doors slowly opened, and a tall person crawled out. "Everyone be quiet, step back, there are injured people in this car. It's Captain Weihu." Weihu is the captain of the residential area guard team. Upon seeing him, Mu Ling's heart tightened. At this moment, Weihu's clothes were damaged, with scratches on them and gauze wrapped around his arms, indicating that intense fighting had occurred. He is a genetically enhanced person, standing at a height of 2 meters, responsible for civilian safety with the hunting team, and rarely injured before. His current appearance suddenly made everyone realize the seriousness of the matter. I saw Weihu looking tired and holding the amplification device, saying, "Unfortunately, the hunting team encountered a pack of wolves. There were 112 people, 29 missing, 13 dead, and 14 seriously injured. Most of them were injured in the car, so please don't squeeze." The bustling square suddenly quieted down, and hunting was dangerous. When we went, everyone signed an agreement and was not responsible for any casualties. The car door opened again, and the people inside walked out one by one, or were lifted out. The sound of crying echoed in the square for a long time. Mu Xian, with tears in her eyes, stared at the door of the car, afraid of missing her father. A stretcher was lifted out again, and the 2 of them hurriedly went to confirm. Some of these seriously injured people had missing arms, broken legs, and some were even in a coma. The last stretcher carried out was her father, Mu Tai. The hearts of the 2 finally relaxed as their father returned. Watching Mu Tai covered in bandages, Mu Xian tightly closed her tearful eyes and couldn't help but burst into tears. Mu Tai saw a pair of daughters and tried to squeeze out a smile on his bitter face, saying, "Mu Xian, don't cry. Didn't I come back now?" When he was settled at home, it was completely dark. After eating mantu in a hurry, they gathered around him. There were 3 deep bloodstains on his face. His right arms and legs were bandaged, and his whole abdomen was also bandaged. These injuries are just simple bandages on the road and still need to be treated. After a while, Mu Ling spoke up, "Dad, what's going on?" Mu Tai said slowly, "Everything was going smoothly originally. This time, the location was in an abandoned farm with wild wheat and potatoes. The hunting team brought back a gray wolf that day, and the next day, while everyone was digging potatoes, the wolf pack suddenly launched an attack. Captain Wei said, "The wolf pack takes revenge. The gray wolf is the child of the wolf head, and they came to seek revenge." Mu Tai sighed and continued, "The hunting team covered us and hid in the bus until the wolf pack dispersed in the evening." After speaking, Mu Tai reached out and pulled down the rope on his chest, handing it to Mu Ling. "In the coming months, our family will rely on you. This is the testing needle, let's give it to you now." Chapter 6. New Neighbors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At dawn, cooking smoke had already risen in Mu Ling's home. If his father was injured, he should try to make him eat better. Mu Xian just needs to cook well, she can do it herself when she has time. The task of carrying water at home has always been for her and Mu Xian, and now she has found a reason not to let Mu Xian go. This also made it convenient for her to secretly pour spring water into the large water tank. The first time you wake up early every day is to fill the water tank. Take a portion of the pork from the oil tank, chop it, and then blanch the alfalfa leaves. Cut them into small pieces, mix them together with salt, pour in hot oil, and stir well. The reconciled faces were twisted into one pill after another. Roll out the skin, wrap it with filling, and the bun is made. "Sister, is this steamed bun?" Mu Xian lay aside and sniffed the aroma of the filling, already craving it. Only on important festivals can civilians eat white flour mantu, and they will not work hard to make steamed buns and dumplings. So, it was only natural for Mu Xian to be greedy. Not only Mu Xian, but also Mu Tai lying in the inner room was filled with anticipation as he smelled the fragrance. After going out for a week and coming back injured, she felt the change in her eldest daughter. She was steady in her work and even cooked delicious food. The hot steamed buns were taken out of the pot, and a few were first filled for Mu Xian to deliver into the inner room. Then she broke 2 bird eggs in a bowl and slowly poured them into the pot. The white eggs danced in the pot. Add salt and pepper, and a pot of steaming egg vegetable soup will be ready. The 3 of them ate happily. She planned to go to the exchange center today, but yesterday she was delayed by those 2 thugs. Snake Skin and Yangmei were still in the basket without being exchanged, and she happened to exchange the food that her father brought back and couldn't store for points. Father brought back over 100 pounds of wheat, 30 pounds of potatoes, and a dozen pounds of wolf meat. She has flour and meat at home, as well as the points she saved up. These can keep them going for a month. Save the 4th level potatoes and eat them slowly. She doesn't know how to grind the wheat, and the meat will spoil if she can't finish it all at once. All of them will be saved as points. Tidying up properly, Mu Ling left the door. On the road, a chubby woman walked up and said with a smile, "Hey, is this the big girl from the Mu family?" "It's Aunt Pang from the housing registration office, with 2 strangers, one big and one small." Mu Ling smiled and said, "Auntie Pang, it's me. What are you busy with? I'll send you a handsome neighbor." "Oh, but what about those who moved out of Yancheng?" Mu Ling glanced at the unfamiliar man who walked over, dressed in black clothes that accentuated his tall and thin figure, revealing only a pair of deep eyes. Looking at each other, Mu Ling smiled. Since she was a neighbor in the future, it would be better to be more harmonious. The man nodded in return. After a few simple pleasantries, she bid farewell to Aunt Pang. There weren't many people in the morning trading market, so Mu Ling came to the counter. Because she didn't bring any prey this time, she redeemed points at the counter in the lobby. Wheat is a combination of grade 4 and grade 5, totaling 62 kilograms, which can be exchanged for 868 points. 9 kilograms of wolf meat can be exchanged for 900 points. 1 kilogram of snake skin can be exchanged for 50 points. Potatoes weighing 11 kilograms can be exchanged for 110 points. There is also a small amount of Yangmei fruit, which weighs 1,200 grams and can be exchanged for 9 points. Now I have accumulated over 2,000 points. She secretly roasted about the price here, a pile of things just can change a bottle of shampoo. Of course, she couldn't bear to part with it. These points had to be exchanged for injury medicine. She carefully examined her father's wound yesterday, and there were claw marks on the abdomen, which were very deep. It was uncertain whether she had injured the abdominal cavity. 2 ribs were trampled off, and her left leg appeared to be the most serious. A large piece of meat was torn off by the animal, but no bone was injured. On the contrary, her right arm and leg were very serious, both with bone fractures. The exchange center has a dedicated machine for exchanging daily medications. Mu Ling exchanged anti-inflammatory drugs, gauze, disinfectant, etc. based on her father's situation. She is not a professional doctor and can only do these things. I also exchanged medicine for insect, snake, mouse, and ant prevention, as well as several pots and cans. Wow! A burst of amazement came from the hall. It was a middle-aged man who led in a mutated sheep. The middle-aged man wore a special hat on his head, with a wide brim that covered his eyes. He had a hooked nose and a beard, and was dressed in a brown shirt with a dagger attached to his waist. He also had a hunting gun hanging from his side. It's a free hunter who should be very skilled at catching living mutated sheep. Mu Ling looked at the sheep inexplicably familiar, with a scratch on the left horn, confirming that it was the one that had attacked her. Okay, the trap can be withdrawn now. The free hunter lives alone in the jungle, deep and shallow, and never expected to encounter him here. She returned home before noon. Dong dong. There was a knocking on the door outside. Ling opened the door and saw the new neighbor she had met in the morning, with a playful little face behind her. The man looked a bit weak at this moment, with a thin face and a hint of apology. "Excuse me, can you come in and talk?" Considering being a neighbor and not being able to keep people out, she said lightly, "Come in." However, the right hand on the side of the body did not relax. Ling remained calm and asked, "What's up?" The man raised his hand and slowly unfolded several plastic-like bottles. The bottles were transparent and contained a thick white liquid. "This is a nutrient. I heard that Uncle Mu was injured, so I came to take a look," he said. Nutrients, Ling has only heard of them. A small one is very full and contains tremendous energy. It is most convenient to carry when going out, and most importantly, it is safe enough. Is there any reason to refuse the food delivered to your door? Just, do you know my father? Ling, I'm Lin Su. Did you forget? Ling strives to recall. Lin Su. I do seem to have an impression. The memory of the original owner only flashed by that day, and now she has forgotten everything. The original owner seemed to have taken a liking to someone not long ago. That person's name is Lin Su. Ling looked at the living person standing in front of her and accepted this fact with great difficulty. The new neighbor is her future husband. Can I return it now? Must be refunded. In this world, the common way for commoners to achieve class crossing is to take genetic enhancers, modify their bodies, or have special opportunities to awaken abilities. Surviving individuals enter hunting or escort teams based on their abilities. But this is not a one-time solution. Once disabled and retired, the team does not have enough benefits to ensure everyone's later life. So everyone who enters the team also works exceptionally hard, participating in various tasks to earn a lot of points, because points are their reliance for the rest of their life. Many disabled retirees are orphans who have no home to go back to and have accumulated points. They always have to find ways to resettle them. I don't know which wonderful administrator had a whim and used 2 mantu to lure poor women to participate. The original owner was the one who was deceived. Through the electronic exhibition table, he immediately fell in love with Lin Su. Not only that, he also pulled Mu Tai into the hunting team and carefully looked at Lin Su. After reading it, the two were even more satisfied. If it weren't for her unexpected crossing over, Mu Tai would have been seriously injured again this time. Probably she had already gone to pick up the person. Has Lin Su also taken a liking to the original owner? His future wife and father-in-law didn't go to pick him up, but he had his own way. He came to be his neighbor so quickly. Lin Su looked at her stunned and asked again, "How is Uncle Mu?" Ling was still sighing as she was suddenly interrupted and snapped back to her senses. "I've been injured, so I need to recuperate for a few months." Since she was an acquaintance, she let the person into the inner room. Inside the house, Mu Tai heard that Lin Su had arrived and was still living next door, which made him very happy. He also asked Ling to pour tea for the guests. Ling glanced at it and saw that the tea was made from jujube tree leaves, so he was the only one who cherished it. Lin Su lowered his head and took a sip, with only a slight movement of his eyebrows, showing no disdain for Mu's tea. Mu Tai was even happier as he watched Lin Su drink the tea in one gulp. He talked extensively about how he picked and made tea, and finally said, "People nowadays don't understand tea. It is said that there was a tea culture in the ancient civilization era." As he spoke and talked about their marriage, Mu Tai looked at the look in Ling's eyes, which he couldn't help but feel shy. He nodded immediately and let her marry him when the injury healed. Lin Su just spoke up and said, "The dilapidated thatched cottage needs to be renovated. I hope I can take in my little sister in the next few days. My little sister is weak, so please be extra careful when eating. She will bring nutrients and soak them in hot water during meals. Not eating his own family's food, just some water, Mu Tai readily agreed. Lin Su's sister, Lin, is 5 years old this year. She was born weak and can only eat safe food. Her body cannot withstand any radiation, otherwise her skin will immediately ulcerate. Lin Su used to be a superpower and had made many achievements in the hunting team. Her younger sister lived with her in the hunting team without any difficulty. Later, he was accidentally injured by high radiation and lost his powers. Falling from a high place, he didn't care about the sarcasm and ridicule around him, but his sister also had to follow suit and be excluded. He had originally planned to rest and move out of the hunting team's resettlement yard, but later on, Mu Tai and Mu Ling came to see him and promised him to take his sister with him, so he took advantage of the situation. Chapter 7. I told him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Send Lin Su away, and Mu Ling handed over his radiation testing girl to Mu Shen. Mu Tai looked at the pile of medicine in his daughter's hand and said with heartache, I just need to take care of it for 2 more days. Why did you still buy medicine? Mu Ling felt a bit regretful for her father's straightforward expression just now, but it was not easy to say it directly. She threatened him and said, the injury is so serious that if you get infected, you will have to amputate. Mu Tai closed his mouth in a casual manner. Before he could speak, he heard his daughter say, don't worry about taking medication. We have food at home. I hunted a python the day before yesterday and earned a lot of points. They live together, and her abilities cannot be concealed in the future. Just telling him now is also proof that she can support a family without relying on men. Did you go to the deep forest? Mu Tai looked worried, are you not going to die? Mu Ling wrapped the gauze around it and said, I'll be careful, and I've found a shelter. When you're okay, I'll take you to see. Mu Tai asked half confidently, really? Mu Ling nodded and said, this week when you're not at home, my sister and I haven't been doing well. Don't worry, I have a sense of propriety. I can't let you keep raising us. Her lips slightly curled up and she continued, look, now I have the ability. Regarding Lin Su's matter. You don't want to get married. Mu Tai interrupted her and asked directly. You invited him over that night, and I told him. It seems that the matter is quite easy to solve. Mu Ling stood up to prepare lunch. There are also steamed buns in the morning, which can be eaten hot. Mu Ling washed and pitted the remaining Yangmei and boiled them in a pot. In no time, the air was also filled with a sweet aroma. She took a sip, sour and sweet, and it should taste even better if left cool. The weather is hot, and Yangmei soup can quench thirst and relieve heat, but there are too few green grapefruits found. Put the Yangmei soup aside. Mu Ling scooped out the pork from the oil tank and stir-fried it with sliced potatoes. If she didn't eat it again, the meat would go bad. Judging from her father's good condition and no gastrointestinal problems, she decided to eat meat to supplement the shape. Dining time in the inner room. Mu Tai talked about waste while sweeping away the food in front of him. The mouth that has been wronged for decades is fully satisfied. It's so great. It seems that the pain on my body is not obvious anymore. If the medicine on the side has thinking, it may just give him a big glare. If it doesn't hurt, it's just a medicinal effect, not related to taking it. After dinner, in another room, Mu Ling finally took a sweet nap. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the deadly radiation receded, and Mu Ling walked out with a basket on her back. It was time to go and remove the trap. Passing by the thatched cottage on the right, Lin Su was busy among many wooden boards, with a tall and straight figure that was pleasing to the eye. Pooh. Mu Ling was frightened by her own thoughts. Upon hearing the sound, Lin Su turned around and saw only a pair of bright stars in his eyes. My father wants to discuss something with you. When he picks up your sister at night, go to the house and look for him. Since she left the matter to her father to solve, she didn't want to say much and left hastily with just one sentence. Entering the deep forest, she saw from afar that prey had entered the trap. As she approached, she realized it was a rabbit. The rabbit was bound by the rope, struggling harder and harder, with sharp wooden spikes piercing deeper into its body. At this point, its body was already bloodstained and on the brink of death. Ling killed it with a bayonet and rearranged the trap, which was an unexpected gain. A rabbit weighs 40 to 50 pounds. She almost filled the basket and pulled a few leaves to cover it. On the way back, under the shade of a slope, she found another handful of celery. A gust of wind blew, causing the leaves in the forest to rustle. Adjacent to residential areas, people working in shantytowns are also returning one after another. Suddenly, a cry for help came from a distance, "Help, help." Following the sound, there was a person running on the hillside, turning around and patting something. Ling squinted her eyes, and a group of brightly colored giant bees chased after the person. The bees were relentlessly pursuing, with yellow and black stripes on her body resembling tiger stripes. "It's a tiger-headed bee. Everyone, get down quickly." When the plea for help was answered, the person rushed straight into the crowd as if hearing the sound of heaven, and the tiger-headed bee also flew fiercely towards the crowd. Ling cursed loudly in her heart. Before the person could rush to her, she flew up and kicked him into the dirt ditch by the roadside. A large number of tiger-headed bees chased after him and flew into the ditch. "Take off your backpack and throw it on the tree." Ling roared, and a few tiger-headed bees surrounded her. She was as big as an apricot, and the stingers at the end of her abdomen were clearly visible. Ignoring the stinging pain in her back, she swiftly resolved the hornet in front of her. The gorgeous backpack was thrown up and hung on a branch, and the tiger-headed bee followed suit. On the way, everyone had already stood up, but dared not make any big moves, afraid of attracting another tiger-headed bee, so they had to slowly wriggle. Ah! Her good mood all day was ruined by the boy in front of her who was so foolish and clear. Climbing out of the ditch, the boy thanked and apologized. Then he leaned over to Ling, slowly moving and whispering "Stop." Just now, Ling used all her strength with that kick. The young man doesn't care, it seems that he is still reasonable and not an impolite person. Ling didn't reject it either, listening in unison. From the young man's words, Ling learned about his situation. His name is Muggle, an orphan. He is 15 years old this year, 3 years younger than Ling. He used to live in the northeast corner of the residential area, but now he is homeless. If there is no one in this world, your home may not be your home. His original home was robbed completely after his parents passed away, and the door panels were not left behind. Afterwards, Muggle's ambition was to join the escort team and become stronger. Injecting a gene enhancer is a near death, and he is not old enough. Now he is persistent in searching for energy crystals and always has to move back home when encountering various strange things. Isn't this the original owner of the crazy version? Ling silently sighed in her heart, it was also a miracle that he could live to this day. After a long time, finally, I moved away from the tiger-headed bee. Ling stood up and interrupted the young man, "Muggle, stop talking. The tiger-headed bee is poisonous and needs to be dealt with as soon as possible." Upon hearing the poison, Muggle closed his eyes and leaned against her. Hello. Everyone here packages themselves tightly when they go out, and I don't know how their situation is. Just now he kept chattering away, thinking he was okay. She could have left, but in that case he would have died. Looking at the nearby door, Ling struggled to drag it home. After Xian and Lin tried to remove the venomous thorns from Muggle's body at home, they were very busy. Ling turned around again and went to the exchange center. Her shoulder was stung and it's getting more and more painful now. The rabbit is too big and they can't finish it all at once. They need to replace it as soon as possible. Let the staff leave her a hind leg, and the remaining rabbit meat is 19 kilograms, which was exchanged for 1,900 points. The pitch-black night fell, and there was silence around her. Her footsteps grew louder and louder, mewling. A gentle voice sounded. She looked up and a pair of deep eyes shone into her eyes. Lin Su's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He firmly supported her when she fell to the ground, and then gently exerted his arm to lift her up into the air. Chapter 8. Two Houses in One. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The night air finally had a hint of coolness, and the curved crescent moon hung high in the sky. Mu Ling suddenly wanted to know, what stage is the human conquest of the starry sea in this world? Wait, this is not the time to think about it. It seems like she's still in someone else's arms. The ultra-long reflex arc finally returned, and she looked embarrassed. Cough, I was a bit dizzy just now. It's okay now, I can walk on my own. Did you get stung by a tiger-headed bee? It seems that I have already been to her house, and Muggle's nagging probably made me feel bald again. I just don't know, did my father mention the termination of the engagement? Judging from his attentive demeanor, it seems like I still don't know. She should just consider herself an ordinary neighbor. I got stung on my shoulder, just go back and deal with it. How's the person I brought back? I'm already awake and much better. When I went out, Mu Shen and Lin Lin were helping to apply soapy water. Along the way, the two of them seemed like good friends, speaking to each other. At home, when Mu Ling applied the medicine and came out, she saw Mu Xian chatting with Lin Lin while burning a fire. The rabbit legs have been skinned and washed clean, and Lin Su is slicing flesh. His fingers are long and fair, and his movements are agile. On one side is a pot of cooked nutritious congee. Seeing Mu Ling come out, he stopped his hand and said, "It's not convenient for Muggle to stay at your house. I'll take him to my house. Nowadays, there are no entertainment activities here." She always acts alone, which is not a long-term solution. It seems good to keep this little friend to relieve stress, but it's a bit foolish. But it's also this kind of foolishness with no ulterior motives to reassure her. She's too busy now, let Muggle go to Lin Su's house. Farewell to Lin Su and the others. As soon as she closed the door, she heard a gentle voice say, "I'll move over tomorrow." Ah, Mu Ling's chin dropped in shock. Are you talking to her? What does moving over mean? Wait. Mu Ling suddenly turned around and went to open the door again. Where else are there people outside? Inside, Mu Ling had a fixed face and couldn't eat. Why is there such an unreliable dad on the street? Originally, Mu Tai thought that she could support herself and support Lin Su. She doesn't want to get married and wants to invite Lin Su to come to her door. After all, they have also discussed the issue of getting married or hiring a son-in-law before. Lin Su was at least a member of the hunting team before, so he always had to take care of their face. So, the person who called him over at night to discuss was, if a man doesn't marry a woman, the two families will directly merge into one. It's better to do it immediately and take care of each other. And Mu Tai couldn't figure it out either. Isn't my daughter very satisfied before? He also participated in the hunting activity this time to accumulate more food and exchange for some dowry. Why did you suddenly become unwilling? Not getting married, two families together, easier to survive, how great. Mu Ling tossed and turned all night until she gradually fell asleep in the latter half of the night. When she woke up and opened the door, she saw tall and thin Lin Shu at the door. In the kitchen, Mu Xian and Lin Linchin are busy with their work. It was Lin Su who took advantage of her wakefulness to tidy up all her belongings. At this moment, she finally came to her senses. It's not that her father is unreliable, it's that the person in front of her is too cunning. Take her home and take the initiative to cook to prove her value. Before leaving, tell her to disturb her heart and take the opportunity to move over. Your good plan. Mu Xian, there's no need for anything. Mu Ling said with a cold face, wait a moment, listen to me explain, Lin Su pleaded in his eyes. Mu Xian, please take Lin Lin to go play with Muggle brother for a while. Watching the two of them enter Mu Tai's room, Lin Su said in a low voice, it's really a helpless move for me to take such a step forward. Do you still know that you have made progress? Didn't you also take a liking to me before, why did you change? It wasn't me before. Mu Ling stopped, unable to explain. I don't have much time, I just want to take care of you and your sister as much as possible, and give you a stable home. You are kind-hearted and can take care of me, but you don't mind raising my sister. As long as I am here, I will work hard to support you. Don't do this, I can support myself. Sister, let's keep Lin Lin. Mu Xian thought her sister was going to drive Lin Lin away. She had been hiding at home since birth, and the farthest place was to fetch water from the center of the residential area. Now that she had a playmate, she didn't want to lose her. Lin Lin and her two little ones stood timidly at the door, obviously hearing their conversation. Sister, I will eat less in the future, and I will also go to pick up the waste. The lonely experience of my sister's death almost suffocated her with helplessness and despair, and she longed for someone to be by her side. Lin Lin's appearance made her feel secure. A small person can play and work together, so that she doesn't have to experience those pains alone. Mu Ling looked at Mu Xian, who had always been obedient, with tears in her eyes. Now let them go, as if she had done evil. And Lin Lin also pleaded, almost crying, saying, I don't need to eat, I just need to eat nutrients, I can still work, I don't want to cause trouble for Sister Mu Shen. Looking at the little sisters who has only been together for a day, her eyes were whirling. She was not heartless, so she nodded her head first. Muling, come in. Father Mu called Muling over and asked, Daughter, why did you change your mind? Muling was speechless, but she didn't expect her father to ask so directly. She picked up a water glass and drank it. Are you interested, Muggle? Mu Ling, who was drinking water, suddenly choked and said, cough, cough, cough. Muggle is only 15 years old. She only considers herself a younger brother. How to explain it? Back then, I begged for help and fell in love with Lin Su, but now I want to drive him away. Father Mu took out a red booklet from under the mattress and said, we were afraid of long dreams that day. We had already signed a marriage contract with Lin Su, did you forget? Marriage is different from children's play. This was given to me by Lin Su last night. Mu Ling looked at the big characters on the booklet that read, marriage contract signing letter. She remembered this incident, but she was not clear about it. This engagement was different from her previous life, as it directly locked the two together. Can you stop burying thunder for her and let each one explode in a series? She can't handle it. She can't roast about the wonderful regulations in the world. Two men and women of the right age can sign a marriage agreement according to the number of years. During the marriage, the finance is jointly owned, and the additional conditions can also be recorded on the. If the contract is not renewed, it will be automatically terminated. What dares to be posted here is a dog skin ointment, I can't shake it off. Finally, she cannot compromise, just consider herself a partner. Mu Ling's home originally had 2 rooms, the outer room was a kitchen, and the inner room was originally only one. Later, it was divided into 2 smaller rooms, each with its own bed, making it look full. Mu Ling and Mu Shen had 1 room, and Mu Father had 1 room. Okay, now that 2 families come together, should we be poor or not? Plus a poor Muggle who doesn't even have a home. From now on, we will eat and live together, advance and retreat together. Everyone agrees that Mu Ling will take power, and each of them will receive a portion for expenditure, while the rest can be kept for their own use. The last few people gathered together to discuss housing issues. Lin Lin and Mu Shen lived in an inner house, Mu's father lived in an inner house, Mu Ling temporarily lived in the kitchen, and Lin Su and Muggle lived in a thatched cottage. After the problem is resolved. Muggle's mouth couldn't stop idle and said, Sister Muling, you're so amazing. Let's go see the tiger-headed bee tomorrow. Oh. Aren't you afraid that I'll take yours? Sister Muling, what's the point of grabbing or not? You saved me twice and then took me in. Although I'm just a poor person, I can't eat for free. He looked serious and said, tomorrow I'll lure away the tiger-headed bee. Sister Muling, you go pick the beehive. The beehive is up to you, and I want the queen bee. What do you want the queen bee to do? Mu Ling asked in confusion. Muggle said seriously, I heard from the hunting team that they once went on a mission in the wild and met a hornet. After killing the queen bee, they found energy crystals inside her body. Lin Su beside him said, Muggle, not every queen bee has energy crystals in their body, and the matter of catching the queen bee cannot be urgent. You can stay at home and build a house with me for 2 days. When the house is repaired, I will accompany you to catch the queen bee. I have a better way. Muggle's bee catcher has already developed an obsession. Lin Su, do you really have a better way? Seeing Lin Su nod, Muggle excitedly said, I'll follow your arrangements. Chapter 9. Eliminating Preparedness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two have reached an agreement, and Mu Ling is not stingy, so she took the initiative to help repair the house. The three of them worked tirelessly for 2 days, repairing the original thatched cottage and reinforcing the roof of the Mu Ling family with special materials that were not only durable but also radiation resistant. Outside the house, the courtyard wall was also raised with stones. After the original western courtyard wall was removed, the courtyard doubled in size. The only place left at the entrance is Mu Ling. At night, the starry sky shines brightly, and the crescent moon has gained a lot of weight. Inside the room, a large wooden table was crowded with people. Lin Su was very skilled and took advantage of his leisure time to make double crutches for Mu's father. Mu's father had been bedridden for a few days and was already bored. Finally, he could move around. On the table is a large bowl of noodles, accompanied by rabbit meat and celery, with each person having a large bowl. This is the first meal they had gathered together in a serious manner. Lin is only looking at a bowl of nutritious congee. Add the nutrient into the boiling water and stir it evenly. She is weak and cannot eat green food. Can only eat yellow or white food. However, yellow food is almost non-existent in the wild, let alone white. Previously, when Lin Su was on a hunting team, Lin could occasionally eat. Some of the food is good now, but she didn't make any fuss. On the second day, Mu Xian and Lin stayed at home to take care of their father, while Muggle led Mu Ling and Lin Su towards the sparse forest. The three-person group stopped near a large black tree stump. The stump was very large, about the size of a grinding wheel, and was burnt black all over, as if it had been burned by fire. The tree crown was gone, leaving only a stump over 2 meters high. Upon closer inspection, one can see that under the only lateral branch at the top of the pile, there is a pile of ash, about the size of a pot cover at home. This is the beehive. Lin Su looked at the restless Muggle and handed him a gauze net, instructing him, go and catch a few tiger-headed bees to come over and live. In no time, Muggles returned and indeed caught a few. Lin Su took out a bottle of medicine, grabbed a tiger-headed bee with tweezers, applied the medicine to its chest and abdomen, and then let it go. Muggle was curious and said, I finally caught it, why did I let it go again? Mu Ling replied, didn't you see that you applied the medicine? That's the reason. Don't inquire about anything you shouldn't know. Lin Su kept moving his hands and glanced at Mu Ling. Although he was also curious, he didn't ask and said, this medicine can numb the nerves. I added a lot of sugar to it. When these tiger-headed bees return to their nest, other tiger-headed bees will come and lick the sugar on their bodies, causing poisoning in the entire nest. Let's be patient and wait. He truly deserves to be a person who has stayed in a hunting team. There is even a potion to numb the nerves. If she could have this potion, she wouldn't be afraid of any wild beasts. Whoever comes with the potion. Lin Su seemed to see through Mu Ling's thoughts and let go of the last tiger-headed bee. He then stuffed the medicine into Mu Ling and said, "The rest, keep it for yourself." Ah! Isn't that too good? This potion is obviously precious, so I gave it to her. Muggle smiled and called out to Lin Su, "Brother, can you also give me a bottle?" Sure enough, Lin Su faintly replied to him, "It's gone. This is the last bottle." Mu Ling looked at the remaining potion and gave it to Muggle. Muggle's heart for catching the queen bee will not change in the short term, it is more useful to keep it. The scorching sun is rising higher and higher, and a large area here is covered in sparse forests with sparse vegetation. The scorched black soil is exposed, with nothing to eat and no big trees to cover it. It's not easy to make it through noon. Mu Ling asked, "How long can these drugs last?" "At least 6 hours. She then suggested, "Why don't we go to other places to find food first? Waiting like this is not a solution." Muggle said nothing and didn't leave. He was familiar with this area, and there was a cave not far down the slope that could avoid the deadly radiation at noon. The greenhouse area has been closed today, and there will be a large number of civilians picking up waste in the forest. He needs to guard just in case. Mu Ling and Lin Su had no choice but to repeatedly remind Muggle of precautions and leave the sealed bag containing the beehive for him to leave. Mu Ling is taking Lin Su to her territory and hasn't gone out for 2 days. I wonder if there are any prey in this trap. Walking into the alfalfa thicket, there was nothing in the trap. Lin Su said, "Wild animals have a high level of vigilance, some are very intelligent. You have already hunted wild rabbits here, and I'm afraid there won't be a second time in the short term. Take a look at these." Sure enough, there were no signs of gnawing on the alfalfa bushes. And the alfalfa she marked has sprouted new shoots. Traps can catch rabbits, she just needs to relocate and rearrange them. Here is an alfalfa that has been tested to be yellow and can be left for Lin to eat. Mu Ling is not a stingy person. His sister is weak, so special care is also necessary. No, why is it green? Mu Ling checked the mark, it was indeed yellow last time. Did I remember wrong? Lin Su looked at the alfalfa in front of him, which was noticeably shorter and more tender than the others. You remember correctly, the radiation content of plants will change over time, he said. The two of them picked the alfalfa in the bushes and quickly finished. They packed half a basket of what they could eat, but there was only one handful of green alfalfa. Not long after, there's nothing to eat anymore. Picking up Wasteland, with a focus on following fate. The two of them worked much faster and searched around for a wild cabbage. The tender leaves inside were exposed to level 5 radiation and could be eaten. Before noon, Mu Ling and Lin Su crawled into the tree hole. The tree hole was very large, and the two of them leaned against the tree stump side by side. Before, noon was always the most difficult time for Mu Ling to endure. Today I have a companion, she can finally squint for a while. Mu Ling didn't want to be polite to Lin Su and suggested, "It's been too long. I'll take a nap first. You can call me in an hour, and we'll switch positions." Lin Su nodded and looked at the scab on Mu Ling's forehead, lost in his thoughts. Although there are scars everywhere, they never cry out in pain. At first, when the girl walked up to him casually and said she wanted to marry him, he didn't care. When he filled out his personal exhibition form, he thought that as long as someone came and agreed to his request, he would marry. So as soon as the agreed time arrived, he came. When we said goodbye, this person actually didn't know him and was quite wary of him. But she also has a kind-hearted side. With just one chance encounter, she took in Muggle. He suddenly wanted to stay, not just for his sister. She is intelligent and resilient, yet also agile and kind. She was like a pure white star, suddenly crashing into this chaotic world. He wanted to protect that shining light. Chapter 10. Hunter Lao Luo. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 1 hour later, Ling woke up to rest with Lin Su. There was originally a weed growing in the corner of the tree hole, which was very small because there was no sunlight all day long. It seems that I have grown up quite a bit now. The long leaves, which used to be somewhat withered, are now fresh, tender, and green, radiating infinite vitality. The surrounding land was very dry, so Ling watered it again. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Ling and Lin Su hurried back to meet Muggle. The wind brushed over the weeds on the roadside, making a rustling sound. Then the surroundings fell into a terrifying silence, slowly approaching in danger. Be careful, Lin Su shouted, reminding Ling. A flower dog attacked her. Huago has mutated, with an irritable personality and red eyes shining. Dressed in yellow and white, her body caught up with that of an adult tiger, as fast as lightning, and her huge claws knocked her down to the ground. At the same moment, Lin Su drew a dagger and fiercely stabbed it in the eye. Huago waved his claws and Lin Su slammed into the distance with a loud thud. Ling took the opportunity to stand up and swung the bayonet in his hand, causing the flower dog spirit to become active. The two quickly gathered together, and Ling glanced at the bloodstain on the corner of Lin Su's mouth. He was injured internally. Without time to ask, she pondered how to escape. Huago's bloodthirsty eyes stared at the two of them, waiting for an opportunity to move. I can't run or fight. Are they going to die here? It turned around and paced towards the two, with fierce eyes and a wide mouth, revealing sharp teeth. Its roar was deafening. Bang! A loud gunshot came, and Ling was startled. Immediately after, there was a loud bang, and the bullet brushed past the flower dog's body. It turned around and ran away. In no time, a person came out of the forest, a hunter whom the exchange center had seen. At this moment, the bearded hunter put his shotgun back on his back and waved his hand, saying, "It's very dangerous deep in the forest. You should leave quickly." The two thanked each other and turned around to leave. Wait, you're Captain Lin Su of the hunting team. The bearded hunter looked excited, completely devoid of the indifference he had just shown. Lin Su's expression was calm, and the blood stains on the corners of his mouth had already been quietly wiped away. Brother Luo, I have already left the hunting team. Just call me Lin Su. Whether you're on the hunting team or not, that's my old Luo's lifesaver. After a pause, Lao Luo recalled, if it weren't for you that year, I would have died in the quicksand. Just Lao Luo looked at Ling beside him and asked, Lin Su, are you married? The people who left the hunting team were all injured and retired. Lao Luo looked at Ling beside him and knew about it. Seeing Lin Su nod, old Luo congratulated the two of them. It was getting late, and the two exchanged a few pleasantries, leaving each other's contact information and leaving each other. Everything goes smoothly next. When Muggle was found, a huge honeycomb had already been packed into a bag by him. Entering the residential area, Lin Su asked the two of them to go back first. Wild dogs appearing in the forest must be reported to the guard team. The escort team is strong and well equipped. I hope we can drive it away, otherwise, if they encounter them again, they will inevitably die. Can you? Ling looked at his pale face. Just now, in order to save her, the instant explosive force must have made his injury even more serious. No problem. Leave a sentence, the three separate. Ling and Muggle returned home. Muggle shattered the beehive, which was densely packed with tiger-headed bees. Some tiger-headed bees had gradually awakened, but their bodies were numb and their movements were clumsy. He used tweezers to catch each tiger-headed bee one by one and put it in a bag. Tiger-headed bees have a high toxicity and can extract toxins. After they fully recover, you can redeem points at the redemption center. The queen bee keeps it, and the hive leaves it for Ling. That's a good thing, there's a lot of honey inside. Mu Ling and the two little girls at home cooked dinner together. The pan Lin Su brought has been prepared. One is for steaming mantou, the other is for cooking. Today's dish is fried rabbit meat with potato chips. She made a full pot. Wait for Lin Su to come back and have dinner. Several people ate mantou and vegetables completely. Even the soup was wiped clean by Muggles. After dinner, Muggle washed his bowl and said, "Sister Muling, I'm so lucky to have met you all. There's not much water in the tank, let me do the water carrying work in the future." Mu Ling felt a thud in her heart. The reason why she has to live in the kitchen is also for the convenience of cheating. Not just Muggles, Lin Su is also not easy to fool. Sure enough, Lin Su said calmly, "I'll come and fetch water in the future." She doesn't want to drink the water here at all. No need, it's most convenient for me to fetch water from the kitchen, let me do it. Muggle doesn't want to argue with Mu Ling either. It's better to say than to do, he'll go fetch water tomorrow morning. The next day, the sky was still gray and hazy. Muggle got up to fetch water, and 2 buckets had already been secretly taken out by him last night. When carrying back 2 buckets of water, Mu Ling happened to wake up and cook breakfast. There are too many people in the family. There is not enough green food to eat. She fried the cabbage yesterday and added water to boil it. The bird eggs have already been eaten by them. She only makes Chinese cabbage soup without eggs. Sister Muling, when was the water tank filled up? Before Mu Ling could speak, a familiar voice could be heard from outside. You have taken back all the buckets, so I went to pick up the water last night. Clever Lin Su had already noticed that there was something wrong with the water in the Mu Ling family. The water is very pure, without any impurities, better than pure water in urban areas. Muggle looked at the water in the bucket and then at the water in the tank. He also noticed something was wrong and asked, "Lin Su, why is the water you brought back so clean?" Lin Su glanced at Mu Ling and smiled silently. Mu Ling. He really knows. Muggle. He never goes to fetch water again. It's true that if you compare goods, you have to throw them away. If you compare people, you have to die. Lin Su rushed to pick up the water, but it was even clearer. He never went there again. But Mu Ling and Lin Su remained silent. He knew, but he helped her cover up. If she didn't say anything, he wouldn't ask. Captain Weihu issued a notice early this morning. There are mutated leopards nearby, residents must be careful. After dinner, the 3 took mantou and a kettle out of the door. Thinking of the leopard in the forest, Mu Ling was afraid for a while. She used to be so lucky that she didn't meet anyone, otherwise no one would have dealt with how she died. No, the leopard collects its body. I couldn't go deep into the forest anymore, so I had to scavenge in the nearby woods. The 3 of them found a sparsely populated area and each picked it up. Muling found a cabbage, but this time she was not as lucky as yesterday. She peeled it to the end, only a little bit of the cabbage inside could be eaten. Muggle found several large tomatoes, all of which were level 5. Lin Su actually caught a field mouse. Mu Ling. By chance, the thighs she left behind can be held. However, the thighs are very weak and require rest. A field mouse made him struggle a lot when he saw dense sweat stains oozing from Lin Su's forehead. He almost collapsed. Muggle, follow this arched mound of soil, go dig and see, maybe you can find its nest. Field mice hide food in their nests all year round, but they cannot be let go.